What is up, Earthnoids and Spacenoids? I am just a simple new type. And in this episode, we have reached the end of Universal Century proper as we cover G-Saviour. In this story, we push past the colonial civil war to UC 223, where the colonies are now called settlements to forget the past. However, once again, there are two warring factions: the Congress of Settlement Nations, or Consent, and the Settlement Freedom League. We're going to take this coverage of the movie not too serious for obvious reasons. We will save our more serious discussions when we break down the novel. Let's not waste any time, and let's get into this. After the destruction of Angel Halo, colonial turmoil grew into civil war. Trade stopped between colonies, and they all became isolationists. Right as the colonies started to flourish without Earth, the Spacenoids spiral into economic hardship. UC 203, construction of the new Side 8 at the L1 point begins. UC 218, the Earth Federation collapses. UC 220, the Congress of Settlement Nations, or Consent, was formed and claimed control of Sides 2, 3, 5, 6, and 7. What remains were Sides 1, 4, and the Lunar Cities, and they formed the Settlement of Freedom League. This time, Side 8 is the only neutral colony. They formed the Compact of Settlement Nations Treaty, which is when they began referring to sides as settlements. Universal Century 223. Underwater is the Deep Sea Trench and Hydrogen Sea Lab, or Hydrogen for short. Outside of Hydrogen, working on the rig, is a guppy. The MMS DS-209 Guppy is a mobile worker developed for deep sea excavation purposes. It has a transformable swimming mode in the novel along with a seismometer. Its main tool is a winch. This is our hero, Mark Curran. He is fixing some underwater infrastructure when something swarms the sea. There's a lot wrong in this movie, but there are some things they do right. When Mark's guppy is shaken, the weird little crotch airbag thing pops out, just like we saw in UC-153 mobile suits in Victory Gundam and Crossbone. That's a little neat detail. From outer space comes a Bugu crashing into the water. The CCMS-03 Bugu is Consent's Congressional Armed Forces mobile suit developed by the Savior team. This replaced the Freedom and is a general-purpose mobile suit. The EP-11 type cockpit has a life support system capable of sustaining a pilot for up to 68 hours. This unit has an S-skirt short-range booster pack and an L-skirt long-range booster pack. This is separate from the Bugu we see in Origin. The Bugu also has a plug system to attach a beam rifle and a machine gun. Other weapons include a giant hatchet, a shield, and a beam rifle. The downed Bugu has a crack in the cockpit and is slowly depressurizing. Mark is told to go on standby, but he decides to move in as the pilot has less than 1 minute before his mobile suit is destroyed. The hatch opens in the back, so the Bugu pilot needs to eject the thrusters. He hesitates, but soon removes the thrusters. Mark is able to save him. Back at Hydrogen, the pilot thanks Mark for saving his life. This dude was black? This makes this line by Mark awkward.
Attaboy.
Meanwhile, Consent is raiding their underwater facility, looking for the downed Bugu. Leading the detail is Jack Haley, former comrade of Mark. He was a former mobile suit pilot. They tell him not to get in his way as intruders infiltrate the base. Also, if you haven't realized, these are indeed repurposed Starship Troopers outfits. These costumes got around. They were in this, Power Rangers, and Firefly. What a slutty costume. Two spies infiltrate Hydrogen. Mark and his team try to locate the enemy. He knows where they are, but he doesn't tell Jack and sneaks off on his own. Mark tries to break into the locked room where the spies are, but Jack and his CAF soldiers follow him. They break into the door and shoot first before asking questions. They kill one spy and take the other into custody. Mark doesn't like Consent's methods. We find out that her name is Cynthia. Mark is having a flashback when he wakes up in a cold sweat waiting to attend a party. The Exposition TV news anchor tells us that food shortages continue. We meet Mark's fiancée, Mimi. Mark thinks, I'm gonna dump this chick soon. The two attend a gala hosted by Consent. The president is to make a speech. Mark drinks some green champagne. There was a moment in the 90s where anything future had to be neon. Jack and Mark sling their dicks around before Mark speaks to General Garneau. He wants Mark to return to CAF. Of course, he refuses. He then asks a favor. He wants Mark to interrogate the prisoner, Cynthia Graves, to find answers. If he does, the general will ensure that Mimi gets her dream job. I think she mentioned what her dream job is, but I tune out when Mimi talks. Mark agrees and heads to the brig. He convinces the guard to let him pass. Cynthia is played by Anuka Ogama, who is the voice of Lady Un in the Gundam Wing dub, and the only one in this movie whose career survived past this. Mark asks her what her mission was. She realizes he isn't with the military, and tells Mark that she was working with their former bioengineer of Hydrogen, Dr. Riva. Mark thinks that the doctor resigned, but he was killed. Cynthia and Riva were working together. She needs the samples that she stole, and with it, she thinks that she can solve the food shortage. She wants Mark to get her to the lab. They break into the lab and find a sample. She says that in theory, it can create a bioluminescence that can make deep-sea agriculture possible. Riva created an enzyme, while Cynthia developed something from Site 8 that creates rapid cloning. Combining the two provides the bioluminescence that can produce a light source without using energy. This will allow them to grow food underwater. As they escape, they run into Jack, who is quick to the trigger. They use the bioluminescence to escape and do a Star Wars down the garbage chute. Jack sets up Mark and kills the guard, telling the general that Mark is the killer. This is not quite a Tomino moment, but it is close enough. Where's the side story of this woman? She's probably a spy. At Sturgis Base, Mark contacts Mimi, who informs him that he is a wanted man. They get into contact with Franz and Kobe, Cynthia's interns? Along with Mimi, who informs them that Consent always knew of Dr. Riva's research. They steal a Consent shuttle and launch on a mass driver system with the weakest angle of launch I've seen. I know getting out of Earth's atmosphere isn't going straight up, but that angle of attack is just weak. They head to Settlement 4, New Manhattan. Here they meet Felipe San Simeon. He is the leader of the paramilitary group, the Illuminati, fighting against Consent. He was a former Consent pilot. They show him the bioluminescence. Meanwhile, Consent is closing down hydrogen and claiming it was helping Gaia at Settlement 8. Simeon shows Mark the G-Saviour. What we see in this movie is specifically the G-Saviour Space Mode. The G-Saviour Space Mode is a space variant of G-Saviour Origin. It is equipped with a skirt booster, making the unit highly mobile. This unit has thinner armor to increase its mobility. The G-Saviour's EFX-8 type cockpit also has life support systems capable of sustaining a pilot for up to 72 hours. What makes these units unique is their modularity. With the help of a support hangar, these units can constantly upgrade and adapt to the situation. This is due to the plug system. These are bigger than the Formula mobile suits from 100 years earlier. Weapons include 30mm Vulcans, a beam saber, a beam shield, and compatible hand weapons via its plug system, such as a beam rifle. Simeon wants Mark to pilot the mobile suit. He tells Mark that this isn't about Gaia anymore. Consent is slowly taking control of what isn't theirs. Mark refuses the call to action. Cynthia asks what happened to Mark when he was in the military. It was similar to the opening scene of this movie. Jack ordered Mark not to help a comrade, but he disobeyed orders. This time, however, he wasn't able to save him, and Mark was thrown under the bus for it. They're traveling to Site 8 when they run into space debris. You guys don't have shoal zones monitored in the future? Mark decides to launch in G-Saviour and clears the space debris, giving them a clear trail towards Gaia. Once at the colony of Gaia, they meet with Counselor Graves, leader Settlement 8, and Cynthia's father. This scene is the closest we get to any semblance of political philosophy, as the counselor wants diplomacy, but Cynthia wants action. Afterwards, Cynthia says to Mark, "Hey man, you wanna make out?" He goes, "Yeah, sure. I'm sure Mimi's not watching." Mimi is indeed watching. Mobile suit carriers are heading towards the colony cluster. Mark finds out that Mimi informed the general of Mark's location. She ratted on them. He locks her in the room. Mark decides to help out the Gaian forces. He gives the most tepidest speeches to the men. They mention Consent jammed their comms, which is weird. That's a good opportunity to mention Minovsky particles, which do not seem to exist in this movie at all. Gaia's forces launch in Old Freedoms. Suck it, Jesus Yamato. The RGM Freedom is a mass-produced mobile suit, originally intended for the former Earth Federation, and the last mobile suit made by Anaheim Electronics. This unit allows for flexibility and fine-tuning. Many veterans refer to this unit as Old Dog. Much of the technology from the past has been lost to time. These are now used as Gaia's main defense. Weapons include Vulcan guns, a beam saber, a beam shield, and a plug hand attachment including a machine gun and a shield. Jack launches in the Rye. The CA-MS-13MS Rye is a high-performance Consent mobile suit. The Bugu has a higher top speed, but the Rye is an acceleration beast. This also utilizes the EP-11 type cockpit. This was originally designed to be an autonomous mobile suit. It has 2 8-tube grenade launchers on each shoulder. Other weapons include a beam saber, a beam lance, a beam shield, and a plug system. Mimi ninjas out of the room Mark locked her in and finds the general. Mark launches in G-Saviour to help the Freedoms. He and Jack fight while Bugus enter the colony. The general arrests the counselor. He takes the bioluminescence, but Kobe takes it and runs. Consent shoots her. She's fine, somehow. The general informs Cynthia that they intend to destroy the bioluminescence so no one can have it. Scorched Earth approach. On the battle, look out, Mark, he's coming at you so slowly. Mimi now has a conscience and wants to do the right thing. Mark and Jack are fighting with their beam sabers. When Mark gets the upper hand, he slices the torso of the Rye. Jack wants him to finish the job and kill him. More Ryes come in to attack. I assume these are the unmanned ones. However, they are attacked. In comes a fleet followed by G-Saviour. It is Felipe and the Illuminati. The G-Saviour illusion is a part of the Savior line created by the Illuminati. This is very similar to the G-Saviour space mode, but is lighter and more mobile. Its feet resemble bird-like talons. The Illusion's EP09 SC type cockpit also features a 96-hour life support system, which is longer than the 72 hours of the G-Saviours. Weapons include 30mm Vulcans, a beam saber, a beam shield, and a plug-compatible hand which can attach a beam rifle. His forces are greater than the Consent Fleet. Jack is left to be arrested. Mimi gives back the bioluminescence to Cynthia. She feels bad now. The General and Mimi take a Gaian shuttle off the colony. Mark enters the colony and switches to terrain mode. The G-Saviour terrain mode improves performance under gravity and contains additional thrusters. It also has stronger armor to handle weather conditions. This has the same loadout as space mode. He takes down the Boogoos inside the colony. On the shuttle, the General finds that Mimi gave back the bioluminescence. Rise surround the Gaian craft, thinking it is the enemy, and they kill the General and Mimi. The Consent Fleet has been eliminated. After the battle at Settlement 8, Gaia is granted complete autonomy from Consent and the other sides. Mark is granted asylum at Gaia, but he wants to go back to Earth to stand trial and prove his innocence. He asks Cynthia if she wants to come with him. Shouldn't she wait till your innocence is proven? Whatever. Just roll with it. And that will conclude our coverage of G-Saviour. This was rough, and not in a so bad it's good kind of a way. This is just terrible. So much so that I missed my release date. But one thing that is quite good in this movie is the score. The score is way too good to be in this movie, honestly. Luckily, people say that the G-Saviour light novel puts a little more meaning into Mark's story. And that is where we are going next. We will learn more about the fall of EFF, the rise of the Illuminati, and more about G-Saviour and the Savior Project. We will also soon cover the manga Mobile Suit Gundam Oblivion G, which takes place after G-Saviour. But that will do it for now, new types. The greatest thing about making this video is that I don't think I have to watch G-Saviour ever again in my life. Peace.